What is everybody? And today we're going to be watching someone named TommyNFG. I got recommended his video, Worst Times to Be Alive. Oh, this is going to be really fun. The thing is, so go check him out. He makes great content. I highly recommend him. Yeah, that's about it. I was like, oh, is there any more to say? Then I went blank. Anyway,
the world is facing a massive turmoil all around it, and people aren't really happy with things like wars that don't need to be happening. Bye-bye, Russell!
I remember this clip.
Inflation that turned a Little Caesars pizza from $5 to $10.
Dude, I remember the freaking $5 classic, dude. I remember as a kid. Hey, we're gonna go get some Little C's. Like, damn. Coke. A bit over dramatic, but you know, that really sucks seeing the price increase on those. It was always a good deal. Like, it wasn't the best pizza, let's be real with ourselves. All right, my go-to these days is Domino's, but hey, you know, very good.
Don't even be tasting good enough for this price. Little Caesars, y'all know you're wrong for this. People barely being able to afford to live. But all things considered, we're probably—
Dude, we can finally become homeowners.
I know you're wrong for this. People barely—
Hell yeah, we can finally be homeowners. Let me just go to the forest real quick and build a freaking mud hut out of trees and shit. There we go. Actually, you know what? You know how you do become the homeowner, right? And in like these days, instead of just going to the forest and building the mud hut, you go to the forest and film you building the mud hut and upload it to YouTube. And hopefully maybe one day that YouTube paycheck will come in, right? That's how you buy homes nowadays.
Being able to afford to live. But all things considered, we're probably at the best moment in humanity compared to other times. Which is why we're gonna be looking at the
worst times to be alive.
Starting off with none other than caveman times. The name of it in general gives it away. Caveman times. Them had to live in caves to survive the nights for slumber. Like, we consider the—
Bro, where's the Wi-Fi?
least you can have in life is shelter. Their shelter was a damp cave with all types of insects and bats flying around. You could barely f around and risk sleeping because a 20-foot spider might bite your nuts off while you sleep. And could you imagine how sleeping in the winter would have been like? I know that rock bed felt like ice cubes. The typical day for a caveman is waking up and hoping you weren't eaten by either a saber-toothed tiger, a woolly mammoth, or Elon Musk. Then you had to go up—
Dude, sometimes it be like that, you know?
out and actually hunt for your food. And unless you're the liver king and hunting bulls, then throwing the testes in your—
Dude, that cannot be good for you. How sick do you think you're gonna get if you just eat like raw food? Because that's the thing with like the liver king, right? Isn't like his whole stick just eating raw food? Oh, that is so gross, dude. I get terrified. Just like, I have to cook that. I overcook that shit. I do not want to get sick.
Breakfast cereal, you probably don't do this. And the worst part,
that shit comes out cold, like black as coal. Yeah, your food is done.
Their weapons weren't even that good. Like, what did they have? Spears, bows and arrows, hammers? We use that shit in Minecraft now to survive. A spear or bow was probably cool to get a little bird or fox, but what the is it gonna do against the gigantic— Okay.
What the gigantic— Dude, I can't pronounce it either. Gigantopithecus. Hey, that might actually be good. Gigantopithecus. I'm not gonna say that one. Okay. Ralph von Goen's 1935. Good God, look at this thing. This Gigantopithecus.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name, but this big ass ape, an extinct species of ape that were 10 feet.
That's the best way to sum up that area. This big ass thing.
Tall and weighed over 1,000 pounds. This must be the primate Shaq comes from, because 10 feet, dog. You're gonna need about 1,000 arrows to take one of these down. Imagine these lived in modern times with us. The NBA would be paying top dollar to get one of them on their team. But nowadays, we could see one of these creatures and be like, damn, that's crazy.
Bruh.
And boom, the species would be gone. You also gotta factor in weather too, because unlike today's tools
Never mind.
We can predict when anything is gonna happen. Before, they had to take a gamble if their village was gonna be up or taken by a tsunami in the middle of the night. I would turn into a villain if I woke up and the whole village was swept away except for me. And people talk about lifespan being low before modern medicine in the past, but imagine in caveman times. They'd be lucky if they celebrated their 18th birthday. Doing my inquisiting research with asking a question on Google, the average caveman lived to 20 to 25 years old. He was already considered unk at 12 years old. A caveman man could just catch the common cold and everyone in the village already knew it was GG's. If my caveman homie caught the cold and gave it to me, I'm gonna have to spear his ass first before the cold takes him. Plus, since there was no hygiene like a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, they were dying to basic things we prevent nowadays like tooth infections and
Dude, what are these clips, bro? These are amazing. Where do you even find this stuff?
ass aids. Well, I don't know about ass aids, but a leaf to wipe your ass had to have not been held. But the main reason I couldn't live back then, quite frankly, is because everyone was ugly as Like, how am I supposed to be on my Kai Cenat, Duke Dennis, looks maxing, edge mewing, joking type of timing when I look like this? I just keep bashing my face against the wall and hope my proportions smooth out better like handsome Squidward. The next time we got is the medieval times. Now, there's a obvious reason I wouldn't survive because, well, let's just say I wouldn't be allowed in the town with the regular folks. But it's not like I want.
Whenever I hear, like, just anybody in general, just everybody, it's like, oh, I wish I could go back in time. And the answer is always like, yeah, but you don't have much time to work with. Like, we in the modern age, we don't really have much time. Maybe give or take like 20, 30 years realistically.
Because was not fun. Like, I know I already talked about hygiene with the caveman, but holy at least they died early. There were actual old people in the medieval times. Back then, they used to actually think it was healthier to not shower.
Who the fuck would want to live to being old? Sorry. Who would want to be old in the medieval era? Before Wi-Fi, bro. God damn, that would suck.
Scientists were not the brightest creatures. They thought diseases were caused by smells, and if you took a shower, it'd open up the pores for the disease to enter your body, which has got to be the dumbest conclusion ever, but hey, that's what you get on a diet of stale bread and moldy cheese. I also like me a nice toilet with the sea-ass temp set at 68 degrees Fahrenheit to set forth the environment for—
Oh, yes. Perfect temp. I love me a good 68 to 70, for sure. Like, this is peak comfort right here. Sorry. Now that it's summer, it's hot as shit. I look at this and I'm going, air conditioning. Just watching people like fight for their lives in the medieval era. But no, it's just hot as shit. So, you know, 68.
My bowels to erupt. But do you know what a medieval toilet looked like? It was a hole in the ground. And after people finished doing their business, they would just throw their outside. Imagine walking to school or work in the morning and you get hit by 5 pounds of diarrhea from above. And in medieval times, you better hope you don't get caught with doing a heinous act like being a traitor, being black, because their torture methods were out of pocket for no reason. If you're tapped into the historical side of YouTube, you've already seen how wild they could get. And the names give them away of the torture devices. Like, what type of joist object would be called the breast ripper? The worst one to me is the rack, where they tied you to a mechanical device that rotates and slowly stretched out your body until every bone broke and you ripped in half. If they bring this back as a torture method, never—
What if that wasn't even a torture device? What if that was like, they're like, well, what if we do this and it will make short people taller, dude? Like, yeah, well, we're gonna have to put spikes on there to kind of like stretch out the back. And let's just move on.
Every bone broke and you ripped
What if it was just a big misunderstanding?
If they bring this back as a torture method, never in my life am I even attempting to do the pettiest crime. I'm gonna be the most stellar citizen the government has ever seen. I'll always make sure to cross the street on a crosswalk, and I'll always make sure to go exactly the speed limit, not risking. And it's not like they even did it for only extreme criminals. If you simply had a different religious belief, they was finna call you a witch and put you on it pronto. Honestly, I don't even know why you would even tell them you have a different religious belief. Like, you just gotta be stupid. Also, people think politicians and world leaders are corrupt now, but could you imagine back then? You could probably give a king the wrong look, and if he's already mad that day, he'll just send you to be executed. And if I was a king, honestly, I'd probably do that too. Like, if I see some dude in the kingdom that looks handsome and might be a threat to my pulling abilities, I'm gonna have him executed. Game is game. And it's not like anyone was going against the king. If they tried, they would barely have a chance. You would try killing a king, a knight would stop you, then put you through the most excruciating torture to ever exist.
Take him to Detroit. No!
We also thought quarantine was bad and staying a year and a half or 2 years inside was excruciating. But in medieval times, they had the Black Plague, and yeah, we really shouldn't be complaining. You were waking up every
Nah, bro. I had a toothache one time. Had a canker sore. I think that's like way worse than the Black Plague for sure, bro.
Damn, bodies were dropping
Rate my pain. Here's this tier list. Pain tier list. There you go.
left and right
Make
like
that
no
a
tomorrow.
video.
One day it was your homie's grandmother gone. The next day it was your grandmother gone. This plague took out 50% of the population. Imagine right now we went from 8 billion to 4 billion. Honestly, I wouldn't mind some of y'all freaks being taken out, but 4 billion was a little too much for me, you know? And their plague was 7 years. Also, the doctors were not helping back then because why did they choose this as their outfit? They look creepy as f.
Imagine if this never went out of style. Nowadays, you go into a hospital, you're needing some surgery, this walks in, bro. Yeah, that's nightmare inducing. Also, plague doctor outfits in video games are always badass. Why is that? But like when you're like, I'm gonna be a villain type shit, and you put on your plague doctor outfit, it's always badass. I don't know why.
No way in hell I'm letting these dudes get
look
near
at
to
that.
help me
Dude, you have to admit, this is some drip right here, bro.
with my medical predicaments.
This is some
They
good
couldn't have
drip.
chose a scarier costume to go with. What were they thinking? Imagine being an innocent child and having the Black Plague, then this thing comes to aiding.
Dude, come on. That's badass. Look at this thing. This is some drip right here. God damn.
Insulting. I'ma just say my prayers to my Lord and Savior, then drop dead. The next times we got is segregation times. And if you're not of a melanated skin tone, well, congratulations. You get a one-time pass for this portion of the video to relive it. Let me give a shout out real quick to the GOATs. MLK, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. Because without them, you wouldn't be watching this video of me. Either that or there would be a black-only YouTube and white-only YouTube. So, I don't know, maybe you would be watching it. I would have been pissed off living back then because the hassle you had to get anything while segregated was absurd. Like, we already know everything was separated by black and white places only, but then imagine how many actual black businesses you could go to. The hassle you had to go through alone to be able to open a business was almost impossible. As soon as they saw the race listed on the business application, you know they did not give a fuck. If you had to get a life-threatening surgery, you might as well just end it there because there were about 50 people in line in front of you. And even if you did manage to get something luxurious like a car back then, you was getting pulled over every time you tried. You probably couldn't even use the car at nighttime.
I think that happens nowadays still, too.
Anyways, because sundown towns. Which for y'all that don't know are towns that ban non-white people from coming in after sundown. Imagine you don't know and randomly drive into the town a minute after sundown and catch a beating. I'd be pissed. Is probably the lightest punishment they'd consider. I'd also be mad too because I wouldn't be able to talk to one of my white homies half the time. You couldn't hang out at the same school, hotels, bars, restaurants, parks, basically anywhere that was fun. The only place we would be able to talk is probably a damn grass field in the middle of Iceland. And if your love happened to be of another race as well, they definitely not gonna let that pass. You finna get banished from the family. Why do you think you've never seen an old light-skinned person? Really question yourself. Have you ever seen an old light-skinned person? They wasn't breeding them until like 50 years ago. It wasn't allowed. Thank the heavens they allowed it, or else we would have never gotten my pookie wookie trachey snaky. You could be walking down the street normally doing your own thing, and randomly someone is calling you the hard R like it's Call of Duty. And unlike Call of Duty where you can talk back, you couldn't risk doing it.
I think that still happens, but only by like crackhead zombies. And you already know that they're fighting demons. So I think it still happens sometimes, rarely.
You know the cops are not taking your side. You getting a life sentence if you even think of speaking back. Crazy thing is, some people act like this was like 500 years ago or something. The Civil Rights Act got passed 60 years ago. Some people alive were in their 20s, 30s, and 40s when it got passed. And of course, the last time we got is World War II because, no. Now, World War II was one of those times where every group had it bad. First, you had to get drafted to a war you didn't want to fight. Like, I don't got no problems with anyone. Why the f am I fighting? These presidents got to start fighting in a boxing ring or something because I'm not fighting with some problems you got. And patriotism went extra crazy before because kids were dead ass lying to get drafted and fight for the country. I'm doing
That's always super crazy to me too. Like literal 15, 16-year-olds were like signing up, faking their age to go fight in the war. They were also super patriotic at that time too. And it was just they were just super patriotic. That's all it was. They wanted to do something.
The exact opposite of this happened. Whatever means it takes to not be drafted, I'm doing it. If I gotta lie about my age and act 12 years old, I'm doing it. If I gotta go up in a political position to be safe, I'm doing it. If I gotta act like I'm sped for years, I'm doing it. And it's even worse for other wars like the Vietnam War, because they would announce the draft picks on live TV, and whatever birthday it was, you were getting drafted. They treat it like it's the NFL or NBA draft. Imagine watching this live and them going, okay, and the draft we have for the Vietnam War of 1972 is going to be, okay, I'm March 3rd. Please don't be me. Please don't be me. Please don't be me. March 4th. Oh. Guess I'm good after all. There's been a mistake in the announcement, but we meant March 3rd. Fuck! Patriotism really worked back then because all they knew was what the TV played and what the government said. Being on a war field for months and not knowing when you're gonna either get sniped, hit by a 5-foot tank shell, captured by the enemy, and being tortured for weeks wasn't really the best living times for people. And if you were Japanese, well, I mean, you know how that story goes. Japan was ruthless though, not gonna lie, but could you imagine you're drafted into the Japanese military and the job they assign you is as a kamikaze? There was no age limit to this job either. They gave this job to teenagers. Your fate is already destined that you're dying. What do you even do at that point? A nigga like me would have to dip in the middle of the mission and just let the plane crash in the ocean. I feel like it would be way easier nowadays to get people to do it though. You could recruit by looking for some emo kids or sad
dude, what? Gods, this looks like an SCP right here. Do people really dress like this when you go out in public? This is crazy. Stuff like this is crazy to me, even though I'm like a little edgy and I make edgy jokes. IRL, I wear plain ass t-shirts. I'm pale because I make video. I don't go outside a lot anyway. And just like shorts. I should go get Crocs and really complete the outfit. I don't have Crocs. I just have slip-on shoes. Make my life a lot easier. When I see people like this in public, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Because I'm like the most plain person ever. I like it online, I guess.
TikTok comment section, people that wouldn't mind losing their life anyways. And if you were Jewish, well, I mean,
yeah, they're really rough.
You also know how that story goes. And after being forcibly drafted to the war, you'd come back home and still be broke. With all that PTSD you got, it was probably hard to work any job. You couldn't work in a restaurant because you get PTSD from oil popping from the fryer. You couldn't work a factory job because you get PTSD from all the loud machines. You couldn't work as a corn star because you get PTSD from all the clapping. And even if you do get paid, it's barely enough to scrap by. There's no reason we should have homeless veterans. So yeah, guys, even though the world isn't perfect and things seem like they're always getting worse, at least you didn't have to be a kamikaze pilot in World War II. I think that's the lesson here. Follow me on Twitter.
I think when the Wi-Fi goes down, that's significantly worse. I think those people in those time periods don't understand my pain.
Instagram and TikTok. As always, I love you guys consensually. And until next time, I'm out.
This is beautiful. Beautiful. Go check out his stuff. He makes great content. Especially check out his YouTube video. Amazing. I'm gonna give it a like. I'm already subscribed. Heck yeah. Makes great content. Alright. I'm gonna end it here. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.